Thank you very much for checking out this episode of the TNT Boxing Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the official YouTube channel of the TNT Boxing Podcast.
With the belt and a stick. And so it was tough until we immigrated to the United States. My father immigrated his family when I was 10 years old. And we lived in Southern California in a little town called Santa Ana. My father had a couple of brothers had already immigrated to the United States, so they helped him get everything right so we could come in the right way, and they helped him get a job in construction. So we started. School was tough in the beginning, and because we didn't speak any English. So we started school. That was tough. We sat in the back of the room, and it was a school that had about half and half of Anglo kids and Mexican kids. Mostly Mexican American kids, but some of them spoke Spanish and were able to help us out. Me and my brother who were in school. Just a really strict father who didn't let us play any sport except boxing. He loved boxing. Always had boxing gloves in the house, and he never boxed himself, but he tried to learn as much as he could by watching boxing, and then he tried to pass it on to my brother and I, and neither one of us liked it as kids. And so when I was about 12 years old, I told him I was never going to box. So I told him that he could kill me if he wanted to. I was never going to box. I wanted to play baseball. That was my first love. But he wouldn't let me play any sports. We had to find jobs as soon as we could. And so, it was a pretty tough childhood. The only way I got out of the house, actually, I was 19 years old. I was trying to move out. I had my own job. I graduated from high school, had a job as a welder, making more money than my father was making as a construction worker.
Wow.
I would come home on Fridays with my check, and he would take my check and have me sign it. He'd take it to the bank, cash it, and he'd give me some money for gas and for food for the week, and he would keep the rest. And when I was trying to move out at the age of 19, because all my other friends from high school had apartments and they're living on their own and having a great time partying on the weekends. And he got home before I could get out of the house from work and shoved me in the house. And I told him I didn't want to fight him because I was younger and I was going to hurt him. And he knocked me out with one punch.
That's crazy.
So that was the only time in my whole boxing career I never got knocked out, except my father knocked me out when I was 19.
Jeez, tough guy.
So, who are some of the fighters he showed you growing up? Do you remember watching?
Well, yeah. He loved Mexican fighters. Ruben Olivares, Jose Mantequilla-Nápoles, Chucho Castillo. They were all bantamweights except for Mantequilla-Nápoles was a welterweight champion of the world. He loved Mantequilla. He thought he's the best fighter he's ever seen in his life.
Yeah, he's my favorite too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was shocked when I got out of the Army and I turned pro. Before I had my first pro fight, I'm in the gym training for my first pro fight at the Olympics, and we get a call in the gym, and my trainer picks up the phone, and it's the gym in LA where Mantequilla is training to defend his title against Ernie Red Lopez. I don't know if you remember that name.
Oh yeah, of course. Two fights with Mantequilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So this was the second one. He was getting ready for the second one, and he needed sparring. And they called to see if he would take me to spar with Mantequilla, and my trainer said no. He said no, because he had a really bad reputation for hurting his sparring partners.
I heard that too.
Yeah, and so he said no, and then he told me, I said, who's on the phone again? And he said, telling you, this guy is vicious. So I said, that's all right, So we go. He knocks out his first sparring partner, who was a little guy. You might have heard of this name. His name was Baby Cassius.
Okay, yeah, Baby Cassius.
Yeah, he fought at the Olympic auditorium. He was a lightweight. And then it was my turn. And I get in there, and I'm scared to death. And I'm just throwing 1,000 punches a second, just like as an amateur, right? Just
right.
And I'm moving, I'm running and moving and throwing punches. And he puts me on the ropes and comes at me, and somehow, some way, I saw it coming, and I went underneath a left hook, spun out, and he kind of went through the ropes. And the gym was packed of fans, and everybody went, ooh. And then he came off the ropes, and man, I could see fire in his eyes. And he hit me with a little uppercut right underneath my eye and my left side on the cheekbone, and split my eye right away. And my trainer, his name was Noe Cruz, he jumped in the ring, grabbed me, pulled me out. So I did a round and a half.
Did they pay you for the half round?
They paid me for a round and a half. Yeah, they did. And then I went in to meet him afterwards. And so they took me over, and then the guy said, hey, Matequia, this is Carlos Palomino. He's going to turn pro. And he goes, oh, yeah, my wife gives you better sparring.
Oh.
It would have been a great. It would have been.
That's what he said. I was like, oh, I got it. I was so embarrassed.
Oh, man.
And then, I went to London, and I beat the guy who beat him for the title, John Stracey. Then I was invited to Mexico City by the president of Mexico. And when I was there, they took me he had a nightclub that he owned. And he came off stage, and he called me up on stage and said hello to all the fans. And he remembered, he thanked me for bringing the title back. And then I told him the story. He didn't remember the story of him beating me up when I was an amateur. And I told him what he said to me after the round and a half, and he just laughed, and the crowd laughed. It was fun.
Maybe the wife was really tough, and it was meant to be a compliment.
Yeah.
It might happen. It might happen.
Yeah, so I read somewhere when you were training at a local boxing gym to get in shape for Army boot camp because you were drafted to the Army, you ran into Armando Muniz, who at the time was an ex-Army boxing champion, who told you that boxers receive special treatment in the service. Is this true, and what exactly did Armando tell you?
No, yeah. I joined this gym just to get in shape for basic training, and while I was in there, the guy who became my coach my whole career, Noe Cruz, walked up to me and I said, do you want to box? I said, no, I'm just getting in shape for basic training. And he told me, well, you can box in the Army. We have a guy here who's was an Army champion, and he's just getting ready to come in. You should wait and talk to him. So Mondo came in, he introduced me, and he said, yeah, you can, there's the Army boxing team, but it's going to be difficult to, you got to win tournaments before you can get to the All-Army tournament. So he said, how long do you have before you go in? And I said, 2 months. He said, well, you got 2 months to learn. So my trainer, so he explained to me that wherever I went after basic training, there might be a boxing tournament. And sure enough, after my basic training, which was at Fort Ord, up here in Northern California, I was sent to Fort Hood in Texas. And I got there, I walked around the base and walked into the gym and said Fort Hood Boxing Championships. And I saw a bunch of guys training, and I walked up to the coach, who was a young lieutenant, and he was just blowing the whistle, and guys were changing from shadow boxing to hitting the heavy bag to jumping rope. And so I said, what's going on? So he told me, Fort Hood Boxing Championships, said, if you win, you go to the All-Army Championships. And so I told him, can I sign up? And he said, "Do you have any experience?" I said, "Yeah, you know." And I got 2 months of training before I went in by my trainer, and right before, about 2 weeks before I went in, he told me maybe you should have a fight before you go. He took me to Chino prison to have what they call a smoker, and I ended up getting a match with an inmate. Probably one of the hardest fights I had. I didn't know much, and I ended up winning the fight though. And I went did my basic training, went to Fort Hood, Texas, and signed up for that tournament. Ended up winning it, and from there I was sent to the All-Army Championships, and I won that, and stayed with the Army boxing team for 2 years. And had a great amateur career. I had 35 amateur fights, all in the Army. I was able, I got a chance to travel the world. Fought in London. Fought in Holland in a big amateur tournament. Fought in Italy in a big amateur tournament. Came back and started my pro career. And Armando Muniz was the one who told me that there was a shot at me getting on a boxing team in the Army, and then I ended up, fighting him for the world title years later.
Twice, and you guys had great fights. And speaking of your amateur career, like you said, you had a great amateur career. You were like an all U.S. Army champion in 1971 and 1972. You were the 1972 National AAU light welterweight champion and at 137 by defeating actually Sugar Ray Seales, who was like the eventual 1972 Olympic gold medalist. Why didn't you stay an amateur for a little while longer to compete in the Olympic qualifiers and perhaps make the Olympics?
What happened was I won the 1971 Pan American trials. I was allowed to compete in trials, and I won them. So I thought I was on the Pan Am team to go fight, and then in 1971 the Pan American Games were in Cali, Colombia, and as soon as I got out of the ring, I was told that I couldn't represent the United States in international competition because I was not an American citizen. I had a green card.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I had no idea, but the Army told me they were gonna try to facilitate Americans giving me where I could go take my citizenship test and become a U.S. citizen. And then the 72 Olympic trials came around, and I still didn't have it, and so I was allowed to compete, but I was not really going to be able to represent even if I won the trials. And then Sugar Ray Seales won the trials, and he went and won a gold medal.
Yeah.
So it was just that time. And then as soon as I got out of the Army, they sent me my citizenship papers from the U.S. Army.
So it really was bad timing.
Yeah, or I don't know. It just felt like there's some politics going on, and I was just because I was not an American citizen, they just didn't see. It was unfortunate because I did make an argument because I was drafted, and when I was sent to Fort Hood, it was because Fort Hood was where most of the soldiers that were going to Vietnam were being sent, and from Fort Hood, Texas, they were shipped out to Vietnam. So when I got those orders, I pretty much felt I was on my way to Vietnam until I got there, and I was able to make that boxing team. But if I don't make that boxing team, I'm on my way to Vietnam. So, I made that argument. I even threatened to go to Mexico and get on the Mexican Olympic team.
You would have won gold medal.
My coaches told me, my coaches said, if you leave, you're in the Army. If you go to Mexico, you're gonna be deserting. So as soon as you get back, you get arrested. So it's okay, I can't go.
Oh, well, you made the right choice.
Yeah, definitely. So you were trained by a former professional bantamweight, Jackie McCoy, who competed from the early 40s to early 50s. And he fought guys like former champions like Manuel Ortiz and Harold Dade, as well as a few other contenders from that era, and retired with a 34-11-5 record. As a trainer, he trained guys like you, Don Jordan, Mando Ramos, Rodolfo Gonzalez. He trained Jerry Coetzee.
Yeah, Jerry Coetzee.
Raul
Rojas. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was his fifth world champion.
Yeah, and he was a great trainer. How much does a great trainer impact a fighter's performance?
Well, it's just he gives you just a lot of confidence, and he, both him and my trainer who trained me as an amateur before I got to the Army, they worked together very well. They were really in sync with what they were teaching. And, he just his confidence in me was amazing, and it gave me tremendous confidence. I mean, the way he talked to me in the corner, I mean, it was like he was in a business suit sitting in an office negotiating a huge contract. It was just he never got stressed out. He never got. Everything was always really businesslike, calm. Every time I went back to against when I fought Benitez, he was telling me, you're winning the fight, but you may not get it here in Puerto Rico because it's close.
Right.
So he was telling me, but he was just just explaining to me what could happen. And then I was trying to go out and knock Benitez out. With Duran, same thing. Just go back to the corner. He just explain what was happening and try to give me instructions on what he thought might work. And the ninth round, when I got back to the corner, he told me, you can beat this guy, but nobody's gonna know unless you do. So he was always like that. Really calm and. But he always gave me great confidence just because of and one of the things that he was really good at is if he found a flaw, when I throw a hook in the amateurs, because I learned to box in the amateurs. All my coaches in the Army had never fought pro. They were all amateur fighters who fought in the Army, were on the Army boxing team. One of them was actually on the 60 Olympic team. He stayed in the Army, became a lifer because the head coach was named Pat Nappy. Do you remember that, Pat Nappy?
I recognize the name.
Pat Nappy was a 1976 Olympic coach who won. Who had Ray Leonard and the Spink brothers.
Yeah, the greatest.
They won 5-6 gold medals.
Yeah, it's amazing. In Canada, in Montreal, Canada.
He was the head coach in the Army. So a couple of the coaches stayed because he told them he would have them help them be assistant coaches on the team. So they stayed to be assistant coaches. And I had amateur coaches in the Army. Good amateur coaches, and then when I turned pro, I had to change my style to be more of a professional style, and that's where Jackie and Noe Cruz came in. But it took a little while. My first 10 fights, I didn't have one knockout. I was winning every fight on decision, and then as I started to settle down and work, and it was just repetition on how to throw a left hook, how to throw a right hand. How to throw a left hook to the body, it was just constant repetition for hours, and until I got to where I was started hurting my opponents.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so during the John H. Stracey fight for the World Championship in 1976, you looked unstoppable. Whenever he landed a good punch or combination, you came back seconds later, landing a better one, especially body punches. What was going through your mind during that fight?
Well, I think that we prepared the right way for the fight, I fought Edgemond Lewis had signed to fight a rematch, and then they offered, and then John Stracey offered they offered Edgerrin Lewis a title fight, and that's how I ended up getting my title fight. Was that we had a contract with Edgerrin Lewis for the rematch, and the promoter in London called the Olympic Auditorium, my promoter, who was Eileen Eaton, and they asked if she could let Edgerrin Lewis out of his contract so he could fight John Stracey. And she said, well, okay, what do you got to offer for me to let him off the contract? And they said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, I mean, I'll let him out, but you have to, I need something in return.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, what? And she said, I have to guarantee the winner of the Stracey Edgerrin Lewis fight, the winner has to fight Carlos Palomino on the first title fight. And they said, well, he said, well, he's not even rated. And I wasn't rated at the time yet.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, don't worry about that, I'll get him rated. So, and they said, and she said, and I'll let him out of I'll let Edgerrin out of the contract, guarantee a title fight to Carlos, and pay him $2,000. So they agreed to it. They gave me $2,000 for not fighting, and guaranteed me a title fight. And then Edgerrin went to London and just got beat up. He got knocked out, I think, 8th or 9th round. So when he got back, we called his trainer and we could talk to him. And so we had a meeting with Edgerrin, and I asked him, what happened? He's like, damn, you were like, and he said, man, that guy is strong. Because he was putting his body on me, but by the 8th round, he said, I couldn't feel my legs. So my trainer and both my trainers were with me, Noe and Jackie. And so then we went back to the gym and checking, Noe Cruz was a guy that was about 6'1", about 190. And he worked, in his regular job, he worked as a roofer, where he would climb up and down ladders all day with buckets of tar doing roofs. So he said, okay, I have an idea. I know what we're gonna do. So every day in camp, we had a 6-week camp. Every day after training, after sparring, after the bag, after hitting the pads, heavy bag, speed bag, double M bag, a 2-hour workout, usually 2.5 hours. He and I would get in the ring and we would just wrestle. He would just put his weight on me and push me, and I'd have to push back. And we'd do 3, 4, 5 rounds every day after the full workout. We'd do that. So, man, when I got to London and that first round, John came at me and he put his body on me, and I just bumped him off me like he was a featherweight,
Mm-hmm.
And that was basically it. I mean, I had great sparring for the fight. I sparred 150 rounds for that fight in 6 weeks. So I could have thrown punches like that for 20 rounds in that fight. I mean, I was just that kind of phenomenal conditioning.
Wow.
So how did it feel beating Stracey and winning the world title in England?
Well, yeah, it was just a dream come true. I just felt like, and right after the first round, I felt like I was stronger than he was, and that I was going to be able to dominate. And then I was going every round. I would go back to the corner. The first time in my whole career, Jack McCoy was not giving me any instructions. It was just saying, just keep doing what you're doing. I can't just keep doing what you're doing, So my confidence was just sky high because he was just saying, you're winning every round. Just keep doing what you're doing. And and I was just, I wasn't afraid not to throw punches, because a lot of times early in my career, you're afraid to throw punches because you feel you might run out of gas. And I had a couple fights. My first loss was a guy, Andy the Hawk Price.
He was a good fighter.
You mentioned Ray Leonard,
when
right?
I fought him, I was 11-0. I think he was 14-1, something 15-1, something like that. And we fought a war, 10-round war. But I mean, in the 9th and 10th round, I was completely exhausted. I could hardly stand up as I was trying to throw punches. And in the 10th round, he hit me with a shot kind of on the side of the head, and my knees buckled, and my left glove touched the mat. And even though I didn't go down, but the glove touched the mat, they called it a knockdown, and he won a split decision.
It's a matter.
After that fight, I realized that I had to make changes, for my conditioning, because I wasn't sure. I had to be sure that I was going to compete in 10 rounders and always be on tip-top shape and be able to go the distance without being exhausted. And so I did. I got better sparring. I was going to college, so I went to the track coach at the university, and they knew who I was because the college had done a couple of articles on me. And so the track coach knew who I was right away. Oh, he goes, yeah, you're the boxer that's going to college here. I said, yeah. And so they said, how can we help you? I said, I need help with my running. I said, I just had a 10-round fight. I was exhausted after 9 rounds. I said, and I think I'm not running right. So he said, oh, yeah, just show up tomorrow at 6 a.m. and here, and you'll run with the team. So I showed up the way I was running. That's the way I ran in the Army. Combat boots, the big old huge fatigue jacket because you wanted to sweat.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me and he goes, wow, that's how you run? I said, yeah. He goes, well, you're not doing much with your lung conditioning if you're running with those heavy boots, so maybe it helps your legs. But you got to open up your lung. Into the
get your cardio going.
Got me some running shoes, and then some shorts, but changing all that, and I got in line with the track team, and they would run a mile, maybe like a 6-minute mile,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would run like a 440 sprint. And so they were lapping me, and some of the guys were laughing at me. But I got to the point after he told me you got to keep coming back because this is where you're gonna really get your conditioning and your lungs will expand and you'll be able to really do what you're supposed to do. And so I started running with a team, and I got to the point where I was running 6-minute miles, and I never had an issue again with a 10-round fight or a 15-round fight with that kind of conditioning with my running program.
So in your first fight,
I got to the point that I would run like they did. I would run a mile, then I would run a 440, a 220, a 100-yard sprint, run another mile, run a 440, run 220, run 100 sprints. And I don't think fighters do that even now.
No, I think that's pretty good. If it worked for you, I think it would work for a lot of other guys.
Yeah. I was kind of working out at 10 Goose Boxing Gym for a while, and there's a lot of the pro fighters that Joe Goosen trains, and they kind of asked me about my day and what I did, and so I kind of explained my running program to them, and they were like, "Wow, that's crazy! Why would you run like that?" Oh, okay.
But it worked.
Yeah, it worked for me.
Yeah, so in your first fight with Armando Muniz, what was going through your mind when Muniz landed that left hook to your chin in the first round and knocked you down?
Well, first of all, I was really apprehensive about the fight. I worked my butt out because in those early, after I had that conversation with him about the Army, I was there training for 2 months, and I sparred with him. My trainer would say, "You got to spar with Mando to get ready for the Army. When you try out for that boxing team." And he used to just beat the crap out of me every day at the gym.
So you remember that?
But you know what? He forgot that I was just starting. I had one smoker bout under my belt, and he would just beat me up in the gym. And so I remember that. And then in the weigh-in, he was so confident that he was going to beat me because he remembered the past, and he was telling people that, he's not going to be a problem. And I could hear him at the weigh-in, and so that kind of, upset me. And then in the dressing room, we were before the fight, the Olympic, I was just kind of pacing. I was nervous. There's a lot of stuff going on. My first title defense, and Jackie and Noe, they were, remember what we worked on. Remember what you're not gonna be inside with him, battling. You're gonna be outside, using your jab, working outside movement. And I was in my head going, I'm gonna try that. He's talking crap. I'm gonna beat him at his own game. And so sure enough, I was trying to fight him inside, trying to fight him in his fight, and he caught me with that hook, and I just geez. And I just thought to myself, I can't lose my title, my first title defense. I can't. That's not going to happen. And but I kept, the first 6-7 rounds, I kept going back to the corner, and Jackie kept telling me, "You're losing every round the way you're fighting. You have to go to the outside, use your jab, use your length." And then I finally dawned on me that I had to do what my corner was telling me. And so then I went to the outside, started boxing, and it became an easier fight.
Now, it was close, so.
Then, I know. I mean, when I went to the corner in the 14th round, but he had won the first 7-8 rounds. Then I went to the corner in the 14th round, and Jackie had checked with the scorecards.
Oh, he knew.
He told me the fight's even. Right now, the fight's even. So whoever wins the last round wins. It's going to be the champion. And so, I just went out and just threw everything, and I was able to land that left hook that wobbled him, and then actually put him down. Like Mondo, he was shocked that they stopped him with 10 seconds to go, or whatever it was, 9 seconds to go. And so I was too, but I was battering him. I was hitting him with everything, and that's the kind of guy Mondo was. He had no neck. His head was attached to his shoulders.
Sort of like Mike Tyson is a Mexican welterweight.
He could just take. You could have hit him with the rig post and nothing would happen.
Yeah. So those two fights, they took place at the Olympic in L.A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you were the WBC champ for both those fights. But I think a lot of the fans in attendance, they seem to be fans of Mando. Do you think that was true? Like, were they cheering for him?
No, yeah. Mando had a huge following at the Olympic Auditorium. That's where most of his fights were. And then, it was people loved him. He's, gentleman. He was very courteous to fans. And then, when he went to Mexico, when he went to Acapulco and fought Montequianopolis and got robbed, in my opinion, that's probably the greatest robbery in the history of boxing.
Hey, even as a fan of Mantequilla, I've watched that fight probably 10 times.
And I didn't meet until after that fight, but I thought, he had Mantequilla busted up on the ropes. Both eyes were cut. He's bleeding from both eyes. He's wobbly, and the referee stops the fight, and then they take almost 15 minutes before they announce the decision, and then they disqualify Mando for supposedly bleeding in the second round. And fans just were disgusted with that decision, and they had empathy for Mando. When he came back, people were just went, people run up to him and hug him and tell him, you should be a champion. You should be a champion. And then finally, the WBC gave him a belt and said, you're the uncrowned champion.
Yeah.
But I talked to Mondo one day, and he was saying, he was telling me, how disappointed it was and how disappointed he was in Jose Sulaiman, who actually was at the arena when at that fight. And they actually went to him, and he was the one who made the decision to disqualify Mondo. And then Mondo, years after, actually confronted Jose Sulaiman, and Sulaiman said to Mondo, what did you want me to do? Mantequilla was my compadre. Mantequilla baptized Jose Sulaiman's son, Mauricio Sulaiman, who was the president.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
He was when he was baptized. Mantequilla was in Spanish you call him padrino. I don't know.
Is it like a godfather?
Yeah, that was like his godfather, right?
Okay.
And so his father, he told Mondo, what did you want me to do? He's my compadre. He's my son's godfather. So Mondo was like, crap. And then I said to him, but was it okay? You feel satisfied because they gave you a belt and they called you the uncrowned champion? He goes, no. Because I never made world champion money.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
That was the issue,
Yeah, well, that's fair.
Man, you're right. You're right. That was good.
That's fair enough.
So I read you were promised a rematch with Wilfred Benitez, but you never got it. What would a rematch between you and Benitez look like?
Well, it would have most likely. I thought I won the fight, in Puerto Rico, and it would have, there was a lot of things that the fans don't know that happened in Puerto Rico to me before the fight, and at the arena, that there's we're all in favor of Wilfredo, but at a neutral side, first of all, I would have hoped that the rematch would have been at a neutral site. I called the WBC. We called the WBC, my trainer and I, Jackie, and we asked for the fight to be moved to a neutral site. We couldn't understand why I had to go. I'm the champion. I have to go fight him in his hometown.
He'd fought at Madison Square Garden a bunch of times. There's a big Puerto Rican following.
We even offered Madison Square Garden because we said, we told Sulaiman, we say that's like his second hometown. All the Puerto Ricans live in New York. And they said no. The largest bid came in from Puerto Rico, so that's where the fight has to be. So I don't know if I would have had to go back to Puerto Rico, but I would have probably. I would have fought the same kind of fight, just maybe applied more pressure and tried maybe throw more combinations and I was looking for a knockout, and maybe that was the main issue. If I had just fought my fight, because most of my fights are, I was never looking for knockouts. When I got them, I was just throwing combinations, and usually if I caught you the right way, I was going to hurt you. So I think that was the main issue with me at that fight, is that I felt like I had to knock him out to win the fight. Because I had seen so many Mexican fighters get robbed in Puerto Rico that that was in my mind too. And then I wasn't treated very fairly by the Puerto Rican fans, so that was also
that was another factor.
Yeah.
In the back of my head, yeah.
Okay.
So what was it like to fight Roberto Duran at Madison Square Garden in 1979?
Oh, that was a really exciting night, an exciting fight for me. When I didn't get the rematch with Benitez, I was already thinking about retiring. Actually, I was gonna retire that year anyway in '79, because I promised my mother I would retire at the age of 30, and I was gonna be 30 in August of '79. So, we were waiting for a rematch, and then we were told Bob Arum that Benitez's father, who was his manager, said they were not going to fight me again. So then the offer came in to fight Duran, and I thought, my goal was to retire with the belt. I wanted to make as many title defenses as I could and retire as a champion. That was my goal. And so when the offer came in to fight Duran, I thought, beating Duran would be almost like retiring as a champion. So, I didn't hesitate. I told my trainer, just take the fight. I want the fight. I know I can beat him. He had just moved up to welterweight. I had seen him fight a couple of fights at welterweight, and he didn't look good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, he looks heavy. He doesn't look like he did when he was a lightweight. When he was a lightweight, he always came in. He always had a six-pack. He was always trim.
Mm-hmm.
And coming in at welterweight, he looked a little soft. And so I just thought, okay, let's take the fight. And then, at Madison Square Garden, I never fought there. And it was, it's a huge boxing venue that, everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
So I was excited to go and face that challenge. And I had an idea that I would be bigger and I would be stronger. And, I didn't think that he would be able to bring, because when I saw him fight as a welterweight, it didn't seem like he brought his lightweight power with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he's going to be able to hurt me. I'm a bigger guy. I'm a stronger guy, and what surprised me the most, he shocked me a couple of times with right hands, but he never really hurt me. What really surprised me was his speed, his foot speed and his hand speed. That's what really surprised me. I didn't expect that. And I thought we were gonna probably fight an inside fight, and in the beginning it was that way. Then he kind of moved to the outside. He started boxing more and just coming in and out, and he just out hustled me almost every round because of that speed. I just couldn't deal with it.
I mean, I thought that was a great performance by Duran, not because, he was wonderful, but you were pushing him and he did everything that he needed to do to win. That's when I saw that fight, or when I saw, because I was only born in 71, but when I look back, you can you can see what the hype is about, right?
Right.
Because you're still in your prime.
No, absolutely. Well, no, I didn't think it was hype. I had seen him. I've been watching him as a lightweight, just knocking everybody out. I thought this guy's a monster,
Mm-hmm.
But then I tried to weigh. I weighed he's moving up in weight. I had seen him fight a couple of welterweight fights where he didn't look good. He looked slow. He looked soft. And I thought if he comes in like that, this will be an easy fight.
Mm-hmm.
But then, we weighed in, and he was in just phenomenal shape. He was 146 for the fight. I was 146 and a half. And he was just at a different level of conditioning when we stepped in the ring, and you could see it. You could tell, he was in phenomenal shape, and you could tell that he was very worried too, because at the end of the fight, you notice he dropped to his knees and put his hands up in the air. It was like he knew he was he was facing someone that could have caught him and put him to sleep. I always thought, that I always felt that I could knock anybody if I caught anybody with my hook the right way,
mm-hmm.
knock anybody out. And so I think he was worried about that. That's why he dropped to his knees at the end of the fight.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you retired at 29 years old following your losses to Roberto Duran and 5 months earlier, Wilfred Benitez. Both of these fighters are legends and boxing Hall of Famers like yourself, and you were just 29. Do you think you retired too early?
Well, everybody tells me that, but but I didn't. I've never looked back, and that I did make a little comeback. It wasn't. It was just. But after I retired, I was just ready to go. I was ready, and then I also had, Ray Leonard coming up. You had Tommy Hearns coming up. A lot of young guys. And I just thought this was a good time to get out. And, I know that, my father told me all the time about great Mexican champions who stayed in the game too long and ended up, getting hurt, getting punched drunk, walking around. There's legends in Mexico, boxing legends that stories have been done. Walking around the streets, homeless and, begging for money just because they stayed in the game too long and you just were punch drunk and couldn't talk. And so I just, I had an education. I got my bachelor's degree right after I won the title. I finished my last semester at Long Beach State, my college, and got my degree. And so I had other options. And then I got a chance to do a show Taxi as an actor when I was in 1978 when I was still champion. And I kind of fell in love with the work. I thought, I want to do this. And I talked to the actors on the set.
Now, you were on a ton of shows. So The White Shadow, I remember. You were on Knight Rider, I think, Hill Street Blues, NYPD Blues, Star Trek, one of them, Miller Lite commercials. So how did you get Taxi, and how did you get into acting generally?
Yeah, well, when I was in college, I took a drama class just as an elective, just because I thought it'd be an easy 3 units to get for my graduation record.
I did a couple of those.
I liked it. What was that?
I said I did a couple of those, like trying to get something.
Yeah. So anyway, I really liked I liked the performing part of did a couple of plays that I was in, and I liked it, but I wasn't thinking at that time. This is 1977, I think. I wasn't thinking at that time that I would pursue an acting career. Then in 1978, I got a call, and I was asked to come and do a show Taxi. And I told them, I'm not an actor. I took the class, but I'm not an actor. And they said, don't worry about it. You're going to play yourself. You're going to play a champion. So I went into the set and met with the director and the crew, and I met the actors, and Tony was like, come on, you got to do this, man. We're going to do this. It's going to be a great show. And then they gave me a script, and I thought, well, I can do it. So I did the show, had a great time, and then right away I knew I wanted to pursue it. And so I talked to Tony, I talked to Danny DeVito, and I asked them, how do I do this? And they gave me advice. They told me, get an agent, when you're through boxing, because don't try to do it while you're boxing, because if you get distracted, so.
Right.
So, but when you're done, if you want to do it, get an agent, that it's going to be easy for you to get an agent, your name, and people know you. And then they said, get into an acting class somewhere, you maybe go back to college and take a class, or, there's a lot of acting classes in Hollywood.
Yeah, that's not a bad place to be.
Yeah, so, I did the show and loved it, and then I retired in the next year, 79, and went full ahead and, got an agent. And then I actually got approached by an actor by the name of Carlos Allen, who was doing a play at a Mexican theater in Hollywood called the Nosotros Theater. It was started by Ricardo Montalban. It was a small theater, set up at 150 people, and he told me, listen, I'm doing a play. I got this play. I got a great part for you if you want to do it. And I was like, oh, sure, man, And so we went to rehearsals, and he was a student at the Strasbourg Institute of Acting.
That's a very famous one, right?
He was an actor. He was a student there at Strasbourg. So he would take me to Strasbourg and sit me and put me through all these exercises that he had to do as a student there, and he's also a director. And so, I was getting this great training right off the bat. We were there for like 6 months, and then we did the play, and I got great reviews, and it was a lead in the play. And then right after that, I started getting auditions and getting other plays. I've done a bunch of movies, and I'm still working working. I'm still doing. I did a show last year called Simplified. It's on Netflix. They did 10 episodes. I'm in episode 5. I was hoping they would pick it up because there would be some more episodes for me to work on, but it was canceled after the first season. But so I'm still working. I'm working on my own project. I got my life story. It's going to be made into a feature film. We have a script. We're working on in pre-production. So I've got a lot of stuff on the plate.
You're a busy guy. Now,
why did you make a comeback to boxing at 47 years old?
That's a great story, man. Good question too. I love telling that because it deals with my father. My father passed away in 1995, and I just had a really difficult time with him as a child. He put the strap to me quite a bit, and he did it to me more than he did to my older brother. And I always felt like he didn't like me, like he hated me. And he never once in his life said, "I love you." Well, to any of his kids, And then he loved boxing. He wanted one of his kids to be a fighter. I became a fighter because of him. I won a world title, and he never said I'm proud of you. Everybody else that I knew, his friends, my uncles, my aunts, they all say, your dad is so proud of you. But he never said it to me himself.
And
when he got cancer, and they told him that the hospital they couldn't do anything for him. So he told me and my older brother, he said, "Take me home. I don't want to die here." So we took him home. We took care of him for about 6 months. And while we were taking care of him, I told my other brother, "You know what, man? I've got to talk to him. I've got to sit with him, and I'm going to figure out. I want him to explain to me his method of bringing us up,
Yeah.
And so I did. I sat with him and I talked to him and I told him, you did this and this and this when I was a kid. I didn't understand. You never said you loved us. You never told me you're proud of me. You winning a world title." And he still didn't. He still didn't say.
Even then, when he's dying.
Yeah. No, he just looked at me and he said, "What did I do wrong?" He said, "Look at you. Look at what you've done. All that because of me." So I was like, wow. He's right.
Yeah.
So I just like kissed him on the forehead and I said, "I love you." And then he goes, I can't get. He was really uncomfortable with him for the fact I said I love you to him.
So he was like really old school, serious guy.
And he didn't know better. His father left the family when he was a kid, when he was like 12, 13 years old. My grandfather I never met. He kind of had to raise himself.
Yeah.
And he had brothers as soon as they were old enough, they took off and immigrated to the United States. And so they left him by himself to take care of my grandma. And so he was, and he didn't know, how to raise kids. He just felt like he had to do what he had to do and to make us tough and strong. And the whole idea of being a man was work. You had to work. You had to know how to work and earn a living and take care of your family. I mean, he raised 12 kids on a construction salary. Never, people were always told, "Hey, you can get food stamps," and he said, "Nah, I'm not doing that. I'll take care of my kids myself."
Because 12, that's a lot of kids. Like even my French-Canadian grandmother only had 6 kids.
So it was 12 of us.
Wow.
6 boys.
That's incredible.
6 girls.
Well,
after he passed, I just went back to the gym just because, he even though if he didn't say those things, he always came to the gym to watch me train, and he always just sat there, never said anything, just watched me, then he would leave, go home. And so that was like the best time we ever did in our lives together. And so I went back to the gym just to kind of, my heart was broken, and then my trainer, Jackie and Noah Cruz were still there, working with fighters, and I was just there. And the first day I went there, Hector Macho Camacho was sparring. Something in my head just kept saying, "You should get in the ring." So I went over. I asked Hector's trainer rounds with him. And then Jackie told me, "Wow, if somebody was judging these rounds, you won them all."
Because Hector's fast, man.
Yeah, and I hadn't been to the ring since 1979.
So 18 years.
I was running marathons, so I was in great shape. I run 9 marathons. I ran a 60-mile ultra marathon. So so then I just kept going back to the gym, and because I felt comfortable, and I was hitting the bag, hitting the speed bag. Then a guy walked in and asked me if I wanted to make a comeback. I said, "Not really." And so he was Jerry Garcia was making a comeback, and he was promoting Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
So he told me, "Come on, man, this guy's got money, man. He'll give you a good contract for some fights." So then the guy came in with a contract. He gave it to me. He told me, "Take that home and read it and let me know what you think." So I took it home. I read it. It's like he was offering me $1 million for 4 fights. Now I didn't make $1 million my whole career, even with 8 title defenses.
That's hard to say no to. That's like the offer you can't refuse.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I went to his office and I told him, "Okay, but I'm not gonna fight like a top 10 guy right away. I need to get warmed up." Because no problem, just do it. So I signed the contract, and I won 3 fights, 3 in a row, 3 straight knockouts. I was fighting guys in like the top 20.
Yeah.
And then but he paid me like $50,000 for the first 3 fights. And for the 4th one, he owed me $900 some thousand. So
yeah, that's Wilfredo Rivera.
Yeah. So then I said, "No. So what are we gonna do?" So I said, "Okay, I'll fight a contender now. Let's pick a number 10 guy, but you owe me $900, $50,000, something like that." And then I didn't hear from him. I went to the office. His offices were closed. It was shut down. I couldn't find him. I got my lawyer to try to find him and file a lawsuit against him, but never found him. So then Bob Arum offered me the fight against Roberto Rivera, who was a #1 contender.
He was an excellent fighter.
To Oscar De La Hoya on a world title fight. He didn't get knocked out, but he got stopped in a cut.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the fight, and I told Jackie, "I think I can beat this guy." I saw his fight with Oscar. I think I can beat him. So we took the fight, sold out the Olympic Auditorium, and I lost the decision, and that was it. I mean, I knew before the fight was over that that was going to be my last fight.
Well, that's incredible. Well, Carlos, we went on for quite a while, and I didn't want to take up all your time. I could go for another hour, but I'm sure you got stuff to do.
Thank you for joining us. But one last thing, is there anything you'd like to promote?
Yeah, anything we can put links on the site or.
Well, I mentioned that my life story is going to be made into a film, and I want fans to wait for that and just go see it when it comes out.
Okay, that sounds great.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.
Right.
Thanks so much, Carlos. That was great. Say hi to Ruben.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.